Maybe it's the awesome sunset in the background, but to me, this level feels like an ending. It's the final jungle level in the game, and seeing as we started with not one, but two back-to-back jungle levels, I guess I can't help but feel like Orang-Utan Gang neatly bookends the first half of the journey. Not only does it feel like the true halfway point of the game, but it also feels like the true climax of Vine Valley. This is part 17 of Overthinking Donkey Kong Country. I guess in a way, it really is the end of the first half of the game. It's for sure the last level that looks and feels like it could be a sustainable environment to live in. It's not the literal halfway point, that would be Snow Barrel Blast, the first level of the next world. But everything between here and there feels like liminal connective tissue. Let's put a pin in this and circle back to it later. The core concept of this level is the introduction of Mankey Kong. The instruction manual describes them as Kong reject orangutans, which I think is a bit mean, but it tells us they're Kong in name only. Mankey is hands down my favorite enemy in the game. Probably my favorite enemy in the entire DK series. He's like a proto-Lanky Kong, if Lanky had a score to settle and a substance abuse problem. Another standout feature of Orang-Utan Gang is Expresso. As I mentioned in the last episode, this isn't technically Expresso's debut, but it sure feels like it. The level feels like it was designed with Espresso in mind, and a lot of its secrets can't be accessed without his help. Speaking of secrets, Orang-Utan Gang has more secrets than any other level in the game. I've got nothing nice to say about that. So right there, we've got the introduction of Mankey Kong, the pseudo-introduction of Expresso, the world record for most secret areas in a Donkey Kong level which to this day has not been beaten, and an absolutely breathtaking sunset. There's a lot to love about this level. It's an absolute pleasure to play and the centerpiece of Vine Valley. But not only is it the centerpiece of Vine Valley, I think it is Vine Valley. It might seem strange to name an entire area of the game after only one of the 6 levels, but it's really not that strange, and I think it's actually quite a significant choice. Donkey Kong Country is named after DK, not because he's the only character in the game, but because he's the main character. The world of Vine Valley might not be all vines and valleys, but from a lore or maybe a narrative perspective, Orang-Utan Gang's the headline act, and everything in Vine Valley we saw leading up to it is just prologue. And I don't think it's for nothing. This is actually something I want to go into a bit more in the next episode, but I feel Vine Valley tells its own self-contained story. Like I said, I'll get into it in more detail when we reach Clam City, but the gist of it is that Vine Valley seems to show a snapshot of life on the island, mostly unrelated to the central conflict of the game. It's not the Kong's territory, it's not the Kremling's home, at least not in any real sense, but it is home to the Neckies, the Naughties, the Zingers and Mankeys. And level by level, the inhabitants get more openly hostile towards the Kongs as they trespass deeper into their territory. A swarm of Zingers stand between the Kongs and their destination. The red Naughties aggressively chase DK and Diddy from their home, and now the Mankeys are openly attacking them. I don't know. Maybe the way this idea is subtly hinted at in the earlier levels, before getting more and more overt, finally ending with opposition from other Kongs, reject or not, is supposed to plant the seed that maybe there are consequences to the Kong's actions that need to be considered. That they're not just free to wildly pursue the Kremlings across the island without a second thought for the world around them. Or maybe I'm just overthinking it. All that said, I do honestly feel that everything in Vine Valley builds up to this level, which is the true Vine Valley and the end of the first half of the game. A final crossing out of the familiar. Sure, Clam City lies between Orang-Utan Gang and the boss, but as I mentioned in the start of the video, it feels less like the penultimate level of Vine Valley and more like a transitional moment between Vine Valley and Gorilla Glacier. I had a few other things I wanted to dive into about this level, but we've gone on for way too long and I don't want to overstay my welcome. One last thing I want to talk about is this. It's a bit of a shaky theory, but I feel this is Expresso's home too. The fact that he's found here, in combination with the level before, is mostly all I have to go off. Also, his bonus area is jungle themed, which very barely backs this theory up. To be totally honest with you, this is more a headcanon thing than anything else, but I'm including it anyway. And now that I have, it feels like a really anticlimactic way to end the video. But what are you gonna do? Alright, that's everything. This video, more than most, feels all over the place, and that's saying something. It's been one of the hardest to make so far, and personally, I don't think I quite stuck the landing, but I gave it a shot. Much of the appeal of working on this series for me is learning and improving, so I try not to be too rough on myself if something doesn't turn out too great. I brought up a bunch of ideas in this video, and I'd like to know what you all thought of them. In fact, I'd be keen just to shoot the breeze about this level in general. It feels like such an iconic level to me, and it's one of the first things that come to mind when I think of the game. Thanks for watching, be good, and I will see you around.